everybody. Good morning. Are we all alive and in good humour? Good. This is really important. The whole of the TOC process in the next 3 days is about interaction. So don't think you can just come here and listen and not participate, because it's not allowed. These events are only as good as the questions that you ask at the end of the speakers' sessions. And you won't be able to get a coffee until we've had at least 3 decent questions for you today. Okay? The speakers have put a lot of time and effort into their presentations. If you ever wanted an example of what free consultancy looks like, then come to TOC. But as a consequence of that, they expect some sort of respect. So please do ask your questions. And the rule here is there's no such thing as a stupid question. I can't always say the same about the answers. So welcome to TOC 2023. It's great to see so many of you here. I'm not suggesting that there's more of you here than last year. It's just that I've got a new prescription for my lenses and I can see the people at the back now. You probably need no reminder that the modern supply chain is a complex web of organisations, systems and resources that needs data-driven and logical permutations to bring products to the consumer. Examining and updating ourselves on these developments is one of the reasons why we're here. We're seeing that we're moving from just-in-time to just-in-case inventory management. Inventory levels increased significantly, locking up much-needed working capital, something that TOC hopes to address. And as interest rates and labour and energy costs all rise, forecast suggests there'll be more inventory optimisation and digitisation to reduce expenses. 25% of supply chain technology applications may be using intelligent algorithms and AI techniques. These issues and many more will be covered during the 4 streams that Paul Holloway has introduced: Tech Talk, Business Intelligence, Sustainability, the Digital Theatre, and the Safety Village, thanks to the work by EDGECO and the TT Club. So do catch up with what they're doing. It's important that we get our people in safely every day. Paul mentioned that this is a 3-course event, so I'd just like to flag for you that on Thursday we have a session on next-gen professionals. I flag this as our focus at TOC tends to be hardware, software, automisation and energy transition, and not enough on the soft and leadership skills that are needed. So what are the future management skills needed and how do we develop them while retaining the balance and the benefits of traditional skills? So come to the next gen on Thursday and do participate. For our plenary session, I'm delighted that we have with us today Hannah Stetzel, who's going to talk about supply chain performance, and her aim, she tells me, is for Rotterdam to be the smartest and probably the most stylish supply chain in the world. Quay Chan, who's head of IT at DP World, is focused on cyber digitalisation and innovation. So we're in for a really good session, and without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Hannah.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tell you something today, because there's a great momentum for change right now at this moment. It is a little bit of time ago that I had the opportunity to listen to the keynote of Jeroen Scheik. He's a Dutch scientist and philosopher, and he was talking about change. It was a very inspiring session, and it was comforting but a bit frightening at the same time that an expert in the field of change said that even for him sometimes it's super difficult to keep up with all the daily developments and the rapid speed of change that we experience in the world. So what he did, he developed a pattern that you can see in the background in order to give change a bit more structure. He's talking about the 3 pillars of change: on the geopolitical side, on the technological side, and I mean, look at the current situation, right? The global balance of power, partly due to the war in Ukraine, is very fragile. And in a technological field, we can see that artificial intelligence is on the high, becoming dominant. And after Generation X, who grew up in prosperity, right, not too much worrying, we have a generation growing up that has real life or on the telephone. I mean, I remember in school that the TV was rolled in to watch the attack on the Twin Towers. But today we get everything in a live stream, right? It's very different. You're confronted with lockdowns, corona crisis, with war. So in the 1990s, China was the Chinese economy. In 1990, the China economy was as big as the Dutch one. There's a super fast rise, right? And I'm not going to go into world politics today because that's not my field of expertise anyhow. But what I want to tell you is that yes, we experience rapid change. And it feels a lot. But you can see at the graph that Sharon developed that we are at a very rare moment of history where different kinds of change that appear in different regularity coincide as we speak. And that gives us the feeling that it is a lot, and it truly is a lot. But you know what? Even though there's unfortunately a lot of negative developments, unfortunately there's recession, war, and a lot of disruption that we experience in our daily business, there's a huge window of opportunity, and it stands open right now. Also from my side, welcome to the TOC, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Rotterdam. And this is where we make change happen. Rotterdam is the place where we cherish the old, where we embrace the new. And I'm very happy to open my presentation with maybe some insights to some of you, because I'm very curious to see whether any of you has an idea what 1 ton of CO2 means visually. I'm going to show you. This is 1 ton of CO2. Why do I put this on the screen? Do you have an idea how much we produce on a daily basis? Well, yearly it's 37 billion tons. And if you calculate that back, that makes 100 million of those bottles every day. It's still hard to grasp, right? But I would like to take this visual idea with me and tell you some about some challenges that we have here in Port of Rotterdam. And when I say Port of Rotterdam, I don't necessarily mean the Port Authority itself, but all the community and everyone in our cluster and the Port Industrial Complex. The Netherlands committed to reduce CO2 emissions by 70 million tons until 2030. And as a port community, we're contributing to this with 35%. And doing this needs collaboration, right? We can't do this alone. And it also does mean a drastic change in our future carbon flows here in Rotterdam. The time here will not allow to go into this in a lot of detail. But one thing is for sure, and that's that the container business will even become more important for us here in Rotterdam. And it will grow. Already now, we're the largest container port in Europe, and fundamental for this success is collaboration. But more than collaboration will be needed in order to become sustainable and in order to become the most efficient and CO2 neutral port by 2050. The transition to a CO2 neutral port is inseparable of the DNA of the port and the port cluster. And the container market will remain to grow, as you can see on this slide. Some experts believe that due to the growth of population in the world, right, and growing consumptions, there will be an additional 16 million TU in the Hamburg Havel Ridge in 2035. That's not too far away, is it? In order to facilitate this growth, we invested early. With future plants that we do have in Rotterdam, we have a approximately 8 million TU of extra terminal capacity. But next to capacity expansion, ultra-modern and optimized terminals, more need to be done in order to optimize the usage of our existing assets, right? We need to get prepared for the future. And we need to balance the developments on the seaside with the hinterland. I'm going to show you a few examples, very different examples, to inspire you and give you an idea what we do here in Rotterdam. Let me start with a short video. Didn't work, I believe. But hopefully I can show you the video later in the presentation. So what I'm going to do is name some of the examples first. And let me start by putting a word into the crowd. It's called twin transition. Could you raise your hand if you have heard about twin transition? Not too many? Well, twin transition is a very interesting thing because it talks about the transition of digital and sustainability. And in that transition, there's a sweet spot. And that sweet spot is where digitalization can accelerate sustainability. The World Economic Forum said that they believe that digital solutions can reduce global emissions by 20%. That's quite something. So how do you do this? And what do we do in the Port of Rotterdam in order to manage that? That doesn't mean nothing. I'm going to give it a few seconds to inspire you with a... No, it doesn't work. No. Alright, too bad. That was a great video. Anyhow, I'll put some talking lines to that and go into that examples that I mentioned earlier, right? Because as a port community, we work hand in hand together. And that means that we also work, for example, with customers. So one example of that twin transition and how we are working in order to optimize the supply chains through Rotterdam is a project we're jointly with the Fresh Produce Center, with customs and portways. We mapped the complete customs process. Customs process is something where a lot of parties experience delays, right? It's not very transparent, and there certainly is demand for more insight, for more visibility, but especially for shorter lead times, right? We all want our grapes to be fresh when they arrive, and it's always a frustration if we create food waste. So what we do in these kind of collaborations is we map the whole physical journey, but also the data journey. And we measure every single part, every data that we have available about that process. And this gives us very, very clear insights in where bottlenecks may already occur, potentially occur. And very often, you might be able to relate to that. We can track back bottlenecks to manual processes. So we put all our efforts into eliminating waste in the supply chain, optimizing several process steps. And the nice thing is, by creating all this transparency, we're able to share more and more visibility in that process. But most of all, we reduce lead times significantly. And therefore also food waste and frustration and cost. Another example that I would like to show is the green and digital corridor between Rotterdam and Singapore. Some of you might have heard it was also in the press. Because sustainable transport is one of the most serious and most important challenges, right, in a way, to become CO2 or carbon neutral. So what we do is, together with parties in the world, we look at the application of new fuels, because this requires changes in the whole supply chain. Seagoing vessels, as we all know, they travel thousands of kilometers with huge cargo loads, millions of kilograms, and that requires a lot of energy, currently fossil energy. And there's several sustainable alternatives, right? Some of you might know a bit about the fuel technology. For example, the density of fuel is not always the same, often lower, so that would require additional bunkering. But also the availability, for example, of green methanol is not yet guaranteed in all places. And of course that makes us reluctant to invest into new engines, to invest into new technologies. So that's something that we're really investigating within those corridors. But they also have that digital side. Because together, in that case, with Singapore and all parties in the project, we're trying to reduce and, in the end game, eliminate waste and all paper-related processes in the supply chain. The protocol optimization is another topic that we're looking at. And this is also where we see that digital can beautifully reinforce the sustainability transition. Because it's clear that if we make the protocol as efficient as possible, for example, with slow steaming and just in time, we can reduce 14% of CO2 emissions of the poultry just by optimizing our protocol. And one other example, before I do this, let me shortly mention you that if you're interested in that topic, my colleague Naomi will be speaking later today. She's in the, let me see which, in the Sustainability Theatre, and she will take you on a journey and give you some ideas where there's similarities in the introduction of containers and sustainable and alternative fuels. If you're interested in that, please feel free to listen to Naomi later today. And then one other example, and I can see my colleagues from RootScanner sitting in this presentation as well. Some of you also might be familiar with RootScanner. It's the first online platform that provides independent insights into various routes of worldwide container transport. And you can choose the best possible container journey for yourself. Best possible, what does that mean? There are different variables, and you can not only check for the fastest lead time, the frequency, but also emissions. And I'm very happy to let you know that my colleague Chantal, back there in yellow, she will be speaking at the TOC as well. If you're interested in learning more about RootScanner, please come and see her speak. So, to end my presentation, ladies and gentlemen, those disruptions, developments, change, they have a massive impact on our daily business, and they have become a daily routine. And post-COVID, right, we all experience a changing demand of our customers. There's a demand for visibility, there's a demand for green shipping, predictability. All this requires a fundamental digital basis. And they all rely on digitalization. So even though the digital transition is running for more than 2 decades, we're still at the very beginning with our industry. Today, tomorrow, the future does ask a lot of efforts, enormous efforts from all of us. So when you enjoy the talk in the coming days, there are 3 things that I would like to give you on that way, on that journey. One is, please remain open for collaboration, because the way to become a really carbon neutral society, we can't do so. We need to work most together. and bleach your courage, because sometimes change requires very bold decisions. And last but not least, please be curious. Go around and see what kind of new opportunities and technology can help your business. Right? So have a beautiful talk. Enjoy the coming 3 days. And I do thank you very much for your attention.
Anna, thank you very much. I suspect you might regret that offer of collaboration. I hope you've got it. I hope you've got a good PA, because I can see there's going to be a queue of people to your door. But it's very important that we do work together. So let's move on now to our second keynote speaker, and I'm delighted to be able to introduce you to Kwei Tran, who's head of IT at DP World, where he's focused on cyber digitalization and innovation, looking at minimizing the number of touch points and on digitalization of documentation. He also made a very interesting point in our conversation the other day that the process of digitization is power hungry. So how do you address that balance of digitalization and sustainability? I'm hoping he's going to give us the answer to that, and I'm going to hand over to Kwei now.
Thank you, Steve. You may see I get my phone out and also my notes in a traditional paper format as well. As we know in the supply chain, nothing like a bit of resilience to get things going. I heard, I got a bit of advice from a colleague to say that in Rotterdam during June, maybe a bit cooler than in the Middle East, so I decided to wear my tie. So that was great advice. But I see a few fellow time wearers in the audience, so that kind of helps to reassure me anyway. And Matteo's wearing the tie, and he's sweating not because of the tie, I think. So that's also fine. So thank you, and good morning to you all. Thank you for being here at the 2003 TOC Europe Plenary session this morning. It's the first session of the first day of TOC, so I think you're either super keen to be here, or you just found somewhere convenient to sit down to check your phone without being handed a leaflet or a bag. Either way, I'm happy to see you all here anyway. So my name is Kwei Tran, so I lead technology and digital for Europe at DP World. As Steve rightly said earlier, in addition to technical leadership, I'm focused on cyber, digitalization and sustainability to help protect, optimize and essentially transform the industry, contribute to transform the industry and the organization. So I've got almost 2 decades of leadership experience in technology and transformation across global organizations. So prior to DP World, I was actually a diplomat at the Commonwealth, which is an association of 56 countries akin to a smaller UN. And for 3 consecutive years, 2020 to 2022, I was also named amongst the top 30 business and technology leaders by CIO. But as you know, with any award, it's not about the individual. It's more about, for me, it's more about the recognition of the collective work and transformation that's going on in DP World as an organisation in itself, in looking at technology and transforming our organisation and industry and moving everything forwards. I was also truly honoured to be conferred title fellow of the British Military Society, and that's to recognise achievements and contributions to the technology industry. So some of you, I do recognise some faces here. So I was a moderator at a conference a few weeks back. And some of you may be aware of the buzzword bingo. There's no buzzword bingo here today. So hopefully no buzzers in the audience either. I may trip over on some of those words, so I'm not going to taste my own medicine here. From my perspective, I think one of the key lessons I've seen over my career is that to address challenges of significance as global supply chain and sustainability in our industry, I think requires, as someone rightly said, genuine collaboration. And I think it's our collective aim. So it's a pleasure to be in the company of Anna and Steve, but also amongst all you all here, decision makers, experts, and solution providers in how we tackle this twin transition. So there, world's on fire. So what if I said to you that 38.6% of the whole is currently on fire? I think the challenge we have today is that people question that number, but not actually the situation. So be it in climate change or in other areas. And I think it's understanding the situation before we actually, deliberate about the things that, whilst essentially the world is, burning in front of us, so to speak. So about the importance of sustainability in the maritime and shipping industry. So ultimately, with port-centric logistics, they continue to be at the core of global supply chains. I think we've seen that over the last few years. We're conduits for global trade patterns and advancing the increasingly dynamic supply chain. And obviously it's caught the attention of the world for good or bad. I think in the last few years, I think they say there's no such thing as bad news as long as you're in the news. I'm not quite entirely sure about that. But I think there's the case for net zero in our industry and in ports and terminals is clear. We'll see global shipping's carbon dioxide emissions grow year on year. I think collectively global maritime is about 3%, there or thereabouts, between 3 and 4% of all global emissions. But as Steve rightly said, global compute and data center is about 3 to 4% of all global carbon emissions as well. So where's the trick here? Are we looking at visualization to compensate for that, or the other way? Is there one or more? So I think something important to think about. But I think the response is both definitive from the public and the private sectors. Obviously, the IMO has a strategy within its strategy to reduce carbon emissions by at least 40% by 2030 and 50% by 2050. And I said earlier, to achieve these wider industry goals, we need innovative solutions to drive this smart and sustainable drive towards smarter trade and logistics globally. So a little bit about DP World. I'm sure hopefully have heard of the name before. So as an enabler of smarter global trade, we want to create a better future for everyone around the world through our global network to ensure goods flow seamlessly and securely around the world. Our pillars, our business pillars now are ports and terminals, but also logistics, marine services, and also free trade zones. And in addition to that, that is technology and digital. And for us, it's about seamlessly connecting the supply chain of today and innovating to create the sustainable trade infrastructure of tomorrow as well. It's looking at the now, but also in the future. I mean, the future is nearer than we think, especially when we're working towards these collective goals. Through our what we call relentless innovation, we've established what we believe tools that really do drive a change in logistics and ports and maritime and so forth. So from smart technology, safer ports to the evolution of the supply chain, we want to drive the sustainable products and services to benefit ourselves, our customers, and the wider good. And collectively, DP World and ourselves, we're driving towards decarbonising our operations worldwide. So this is our world. And when we say our world, it's not DP World's world, it's our world, and collectively it's our future. So our ambition is to reach net zero by 2050, in line with the IMO's strategy as well. And that strategy ensures that we focus on every aspect. And when we say every aspect, we really do mean every aspect through our business and through our own supply chain as well, to ensure that we reach our goals. And we believe, as I rightly said, collaboration and partnerships are key to that, to achieving net zero across the industry. And we've aligned our strategy and operations with the UN Global Compact since 2019, and also with the Mercer McKinley Waller Centre in looking at zero carbon shipping. There's a lot of, I've got notes here, so many sort of innovative things we've done from a sustainability aspect in the last 12 months only, I think. In the UK, in Southampton, we've delivered our greenest every year, 55% reduction in net carbon emissions in 2022. In Jebel Ali, we've initiated the mangrove forest project, 100,000 seedlings to regrow. Those of you that study ecology will understand the importance of mangroves and how they sort of help the general ecosystem, but also protect our waterways and the environment around that as well. And all this is a step forwards for us to move to a better future. In Southampton, we were the first port in the UK to eliminate fossil fuels. So we moved to HVO. There was obviously, I think the challenge we always see with sustainability programs is, do I get an immediate return? Is it not going to cost me anything, right? And I think the hard answer is no. There will be investment required. A monetary investment, a cultural investment, and an operational investment to make it work. It's taken a lot of effort, but we've achieved that in Southampton. We're, moving away, transition fully away from diesel to HVO in the UK. And I think beyond partnerships and internally, we're looking at maximising end-to-end efficiencies through innovation, a lot of it driven through technology, which I'll run through as well. So, digitalisation I think, is the key area for the industry in order to achieve our broader goals for sustainability. From our perspective, in-house evolution and innovations are, sometimes a more direct pathway to achieve carbon reduction, and that's investments in equipment, in how we operate, in digital products, and how we partner with our partners to reduce the cycle, in how we interconnect to each other, reducing waste, as we say. Those in operations understand lean and so forth. And it's not just about lean in one part of the operations, it's lean in the end-to-end. Is how we need to see things. That's just some high-level numbers from our chairman about our commitment over the course of the next few years. So, what does this mean? So, I think the impact on sustainable business practice that I think automation and technology will continue to drive greener operations in the industry. But obviously there's a lot of work to get to 2030, 2040 and 2050. And sometimes we think that's quite far away, and at the same time it's not. I think what is important is driving awareness. And I think that's the first step really to implement any sustainable change. Driving that awareness and getting that collective buy-in and alignment in where we want to go. So at BP, our commitment to focus on innovation has led to the creation of Box Bay. So there's a stand in Box Bay elsewhere in the hall that you're welcome to come and see. So the high bay storage system cuts down on time and resources. Can stack up to 11 stories high, 200% more capacity, about a third of the regular footprint. So quite a significant shift in how we operate. I think just by putting in something like Box Bay alone, I think we've calculated that we can drop energy demands in a port by between 40 to 60% through handling the same amount of traffic, which is I would say not insignificant. And I think the same innovative focus throughout our organisation is to look at efficiencies in other technologies as well as Box Bay, such as 5G and Web3 and so forth. So what do we want to do? Pioneering new technologies. Obviously we've got colleagues in Dubai and in India looking at the metaverse. And I know it's an interesting area right now. I'll say the B word being blockchain. We're at the stage back in 2016, 2017 trying to figure things out. What I find with new technology is that when a lot of people are speaking about it, it probably means that people are still trying to work out what it means. Similar to the metaverse and so forth right now. The technologies such as GPT and so forth. But when it does quieten down, and those of you that study the hype cycle and so forth, it's probably when the real work's getting done, and actually real value is coming out through these technologies, and it will take a long time. But at the same time, I think we tend to, especially with technology, I think we tend to overestimate what technology can do in 12 months to 18 months. But at the same time, we forget what technology can achieve over a longer period of time. Say across a 10-year span or so forth. And I think it's important to remember and recognise that it's a journey. A lot of people think it's a trip. I think that's to remember. Whether it's technology transformation, digitalisation, whether it's on the journey to sustainability, it's called the journey. It's not called a trip, and you need to kind of decide where you want to go on that journey and really commit to it on the way. I'll talk about the products later on as well, but with our cargo suite products, being displayed at our stand further down here, it's providing a much smarter and efficient way for logistics and trade to move forwards. It's about pretty much, I think we talk about the physical modal shift of shifting from trucks and so forth to more sustainable ways of transport. When we look at our cargo product, it's kind of it's a shift from traditional ways of operating, be it people intensive, paper intensive, to a more digitalized way of doing trade and interconnecting sort of data between ourselves, between our partners, between the wider communities to make it more efficient for all going forwards. I think I've got a video on the products later on, so I won't talk too much about it, but feel free to come and see our team. We've got Cargo TOC Plus, ABA Plus, IoT Plus, and GC Plus. Pretty much quite revolutionary what they do. Hosted in the cloud, using AI analytics, all those things today. So using those, a lot of times it's from what I've seen in the industry and throughout my career, there's a lot of talk about technologies, but actually the actual implementation is the challenge. I think with a lot of our products today, those are out of the box today, and I think that's. I do encourage you to come and talk to our colleagues. And Cargoes is a new name for our products, but actually we have a lot of collective ability and knowledge in this space for a while. Obviously, as an organisation, as an operator, originally locally, then regionally, and now globally. So through that, we've actually implemented over 100 implementation projects globally already, with a lot of expertise with my colleagues here. Over 20 years of experience of implementation across the ports business. And that's really to help ourselves, but also our customers and everyone collectively as well. So at our flagship terminal in Jebali, by digitalising it, we can predict or foresee issues before they arrive, helping with safety, preventing accidents, preventative maintenance, so perform mechanical breakdowns, and again preventing unnecessary wastage. And I think we don't have Steve Digital Twin here, but we do have one in Jebali of our home terminal. So that's to provide visibility, live digital map where we can test, learn, and apply at the same time to provide predictive analytics and streamline the operations of one of the busiest terminals in the world, busiest ports terminals, and I would say trade terminals in the world, not just terminal. I think a lot of people forget that Jeb Valley is not just a port terminal; it's a whole ecosystem of trade flowing through the Middle East and globally. So how we are delivering that, I think, as I said earlier, first it's about awareness, and then actually it's about assessment, so understanding where you're starting from. I think it's like with a lot of technologies as well. The assumption is that everyone's starting from the same place, but it's really important actually to understand where you're starting from, and that requires looking sort of internally at yourself and your organisation on where we are and actually what we want to do and how we can try and change. So from a leaking ports and terminal perspective, that's when looking at our equipment and our operations. So things like RTGs, which today account for probably about 40% of emissions in the yard alone. That's about looking how we can transition to hybrid, fully electric, automated, and just step changes along the way across different cycles. We've seen so many different kind of types of port operations around the world. It's about it's not about one size fits all. It's about the collective journey, understanding where we're going to, and how can we make step changes in each and every one to make a difference. And I think the mindset helps us to find ways to make those step changes to reach our targets. We have an internal motto which is kind of look internally and externally and think about hashtag change what's possible. So looking at what is actually possible for us to make an immediate change. Nearby in Antwerp, I know that's not something that you like to hear in Rotterdam, but in Antwerp, our terminal there runs 100% green energy today. And likewise in RWG, just in Maasvlakte 2, that's fully electric, fully automated, 84 electric AGVs, ASCs, STS cranes, all fully automated, all electric, where they can capture and regenerate their energy as well. Whereas I think it's one of the very few, not the first, net neutral terminals in the world. So, like I said, my amazing comms colleagues have provided sort of 101 different examples for me to run through. But I would just encourage you to kind of speak to my colleagues at the stand. I think a colleague also talking in the sustainability pavilion as well later on this week. So I encourage you to listen to that as well about what are we looking, what we're doing globally to help with that as well. Obviously, it's not just looking at the port facility itself; it's looking at beyond the gate. As I said, it's about the whole ecosystem, and that requires a mindset shift and then a modal shift, which is something that we've looked at and are doing in the UK. In Southampton, in the UK, again, Southampton again, we have the highest proportion of containers going out the port terminal by rail, over 30%. And because we know that that today that's probably the most efficient and sustainable way of transporting mass volume of cargo and containers, moving more trucks off the road, more cargo onto rail. So that's both London Gateway and Southampton in our UK business collectively is to reduce 300,000 truck journeys off the road and onto rail over the course of the coming period. So you can talk to my colleagues from the UK about that as well. Data has also allowed us to plan and create efficiencies. So looking at using AI, I think there's a lot of expertise in this hall on AI and machine learning, what that can do. From our perspective, it's just simple things about idle equipment. Just looking at idle equipment can create anywhere between 10 to 15% improvements in efficiencies. And that's just something you can do straight off the bat today, without any significant investment. So it's just simple step changes, I think, that kind of contributes to the whole. And then using, pooling the data, connecting with port communities and so forth, and, creating a much more efficient supply chain, not just in the port, beyond the gate, across the maritime leg and from origin as well. So this is just a small selection of our digital products and services which we've branded under the Cargo suite. So the end-to-end supply chain, as we know, can be enormously complex, and we have suite products, what we call in technology speak, fully containerized. So that means they can run independently and connect to your existing systems, but at the same time, collectively as a whole, that's those of you that study economics, the economies of scale in the power and the data they generate for organization can be quite significant. So we have Cargo's Flow, which helps with visibility across the supply chain, across shipping lines, carriers, and so forth, across the whole network, be it DP World, but outside the wider global supply chain as well. Real-time information, shipments. Is that still working? Yeah. Okay. There. I'm holding a mic now. Okay. This is definitely not buzzword bingo time. Okay. I'm holding a mic, but it's still not buzzword bingo. Okay. Got Cargo's community, which helps connect all the stakeholders across the ports and wider community in providing insights and also seamlessly, providing digitalizing the documentation and information you need to run and operate seamlessly across multiple ports and terminals and so forth. I think it's quite significant when you transition. I think the mindset change, transitioning from traditional ways of working to more, I would say, digitalized ways of working, I think can be quite significant. And in the UK, we have our colleagues from CNS in the UK who underpin a lot of our Cargo's community work. They've done a lot of work in the last few years in improving, trucking efficiencies across UK ports. The other B word, not blockchain, Brexit, helping with that as well. Obviously, ouch, yeah, I know. So there was that as well, which obviously, quite a lot of work in making all that flow efficiently as possible. I say as possible, caveat. But ultimately, it's about, all these digital products, what do they mean? Do they replace things? How does it work? How does it start? I think it's about combining our digital assets, our ports, our warehousing and trucking, overlaying and underpinning that with digital capabilities and assets. And it's not a one replacing the other or so forth. I think it's, as with most things, the sum becomes greater than its parts, and it's actually, helping you drive those efficiencies whilst, I think as Anna said, right, 60 million additional TEUs. We need to, in this region alone, the 60 million TEUs coming in, and we still need to reach net zero by 2050. Yeah? So obviously doing things the way they are today, it's not going to help. So it's about thinking about how we can apply things to help this particularly digital product. I think my video, not sure if it worked, because the Hannah's video didn't work.
Cargo systems, real-time location systems, fleet management systems, AutoGate systems, advanced video analytics and operations and planning through Cargo's Ports and Terminals products, TOS Plus, AVA Plus, GC Plus, and IoT Plus. Many of the systems and programs used in terminal management lack intelligence and terminal Internet of Things framework to impact port efficiency. Cargo's Ports and Terminals solutions require no extra capital investment from the user, as all software can be hosted off-site by Cargo's Ports and Terminals. This allows the user to take advantage of a feature-rich service that can revolutionize terminal operations at an affordable price. The core product from Cargo's ports and terminals is the operation and planning system, a widely supported and highly scalable operations and planning module with support for complete container terminal operations from planning to executing in vessel, quay, yard, empty park, terminal gate, and reefer operations, and is proven for use in marine terminals exceeding volumes of 10 million TEU per year. Cargo's ports and terminal solutions can be deployed in a number of port and terminal facilities, including container freight stations, general stevedoring, and intermodal container depots to give an improved experience in back-end, billing, fleet management, shipment tracking, and more. When you sign up for Cargo's TOS Plus, AVA Plus, GC Plus, and IoT Plus, you receive support throughout the entire process as we provide both a remote and on-site team to understand the scope of your needs and to deliver a tailored solution. Once Cargo's ports and terminal solution has been set up, you will be provided with on-site training and access to a suite of e-learning supports, walking you through the key features via interactive practice sessions based on actual terminal scenarios to ensure your staff are prepared to use and make the most of the new system. Cargo's ports and terminal solutions are products backed by over 40 years of experience in logistics to solve challenges in the supply chain. Cargo's is constantly driving research and developments in machine learning, AI, and the Internet of Things to provide products that are always evolving and ready to support customers. Cargo's ports and terminal solutions are already being used in terminals around the world, delivering higher efficiency and cost savings. To learn about how Cargo's TOS Plus, AVA Plus, GC Plus, and IoT Plus can improve your operations, visit our website and request a demo.
Mike. So in conclusion, I think smarter processes and digitalization are essential for the challenges we face in the supply chain and our drive towards net zero. We've begun our own journey here at DP World. Obviously, I've only highlighted a few examples. My colleagues throughout the course of the next few days, we've got Carla there in the audience I see. We will be able to talk to you a lot more about what we're doing with regards to operational digitalization and other areas as well. I think as we adopt these solutions, I think the more we can connect and collaborate, the more we will help ourselves, but also each other. So obviously, I think through collaboration we can enhance connectivity, provide better visibility for ourselves, but also our customers and the wider industry. I think as one, collectively, we can create supply chains that keep trade moving, the increasing global trade. Let's not forget that, the increasing global trade, whilst it is in harmony with our planet as well. I think, historically as organizations, we think about the 3 Ps. Right? Most organizations look at the 3 Ps, which were sort of profit, performance, and processes. Right? Those were the kind of metrics we were primarily concerned with. But if you kind of have a mindset shift of actually where we are now, the first P actually is planet. Because without planet, none of those other P's matter. So there's planet, and then there's purpose. Yeah, collectively in your own organisation, how you contribute to that, but actually what is your organisation's purpose and what it does and what it delivers. And then ultimately it's the people that deliver that. We talk about technology and we talk about AI, but ultimately, today a lot of it's about the people that actually help drive towards that as well. And Hannah had the 3 Cs, so I thought I'll change the letter of the alphabet about what we need to look at with regards to solutions and so forth. So the first is about smart. What do we mean by smart? And we mean operating in an innovative but efficient manner. And that's continuous improvement, and reducing waste and all of that kind of stuff, but through digital. Then there's sustainable. Yeah. So that's something that can survive today but tomorrow as well, and fosters economic and social development for the wider good. And lastly, as we're talking about digital, I think security has to come into. Security has to come into it, and that's about reliably protecting all our stakeholders. You know, as much as we want to collaborate, I think someone mentioned to me, well, the most secure computer is a computer that's unplugged, right? It's about understanding, how we drive all this change while still protecting all our stakeholders. And I know I did say that this was the concluding slide, but I do have one more, so apologies for that. So I think we need to remember that digitalization is just a tool, so it's just a means to an end. So I think nobody digitalizes just to be digital, although I think 2017 people did blockchain just because they did blockchain. So I think it's important to understand your goal, where you want to go, and because ultimately without a reason for what you're trying to do, you can end up in places where you may not want to be. So going full circle, it comes back to the people, providing the right environment, enabling those around you to excel. A lot of challenges we face today are really about problem solving, and it's about understanding, firstly having the awareness of that situation, communicating that, and then committing to the resolution collectively. So thank you. I hope you found some of that useful, and we may have time for a Q&A. Thank you.
Yes, we do have communications. Well, thank you both, Kikwe and Hannah, for excellent opening sessions. As you may expect, I've got some questions of my own, but does anybody from the audience like to ask a question before I do? Was there anything there that you heard that you didn't understand? Anything there that you disagreed with? Maybe you're doing things in a different way that we want to hear about. At the front here, please do tell us who you are and who you represent.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trent. Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm Lucas from Games Logistics. I was wondering about standardization in your organization and to what extent DP World Europe, let's just stay in Europe, can implement these different technologies in all your terminals, because obviously each terminal that you told us about that has its own policy, has its own projects, but how does, obviously I expect Cargo Plus to be in most of the terminals in the coming future, certainly, and to what extent what you develop and what you could buy from other companies could be implemented as a standard in all your terminals you're supervising. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's a few questions in one there, I think. So there was one about standardization, and I think standardization is one of those words in the industry where everyone wants a standard and everyone wants to propose their own standard. So that's kind of the oxymoron of kind of where we were. But I think, with a lot of organizations in the last few years, I think it's gained a lot of momentum. Things like DCSA, TIC.0 and so forth. I think there is actually an impetus because we see that actually disparate systems do create inefficiencies, and ultimately it's not about putting one system in the TOS and it sort of runs everything, right? We still need to connect with other solutions across our own organisation, but across our customers' organisations as well as the wider community. So I think it's important to have, I would say, core standards. What we don't want to be is uniform, because not all ports are the same shape and size, not the equipment we have are the same as well, but actually understanding how we want to operate, which parts of the operations do we want to, standardise in how we operate, and then we look at the systems and how we achieve that. I think if we talk about putting a standard system for everything, we know that can be a challenge, and there's in technology terms, I think vendors like to talk about the word vanilla. Yeah, we tend to find that vanilla tastes very differently when we actually buy the product. And I think it's about having that kind of mindset that you want to have a standard way of doing things, and then look at the technology that can help towards that. A lot of times in tech, we look at technology, and we say we've got a standard platform, and then we're going to apply it vanilla across our operations. And I think we're almost doing the cart before the horse there. So there's that aspect. Hopefully that answers some of your questions. I didn't dodge it too much. And then there's, I think, the question about the kind of ratio, or the kind of what do you do in-house, what do you do with partners. I think regardless of the size of your organisation, there'll always be things that others are looking at in a more specialised manner than yourself. And it's about having that, I would say, open mindset. Look inwardly to say, what can I do right now? And then, what do I need to complement that with, and so forth. And, there will be, areas where potentially, there are tools and solutions out there where we would never want to touch or look at. And it's understanding kind of where you're at. I think, as I said earlier, it's actually looking inwardly, whether that's tools, technologies, partners, sustainability. It's actually looking inwardly to see where we are right now, and actually where we want to be, rather than saying, I've got, I'm 90% in-house, I want to do everything out externally, or 100% I want to take it back in-house. There's no right or wrong answer, but there's a right or wrong way of doing things. If you don't know where you want to go.
You happy with the answer? Great, thank you very much. Corey, you've a number of things that you said caught my attention. One in particular, you talked about predictive forecasting in your system, and clearly your colleague that recommended you should wear a tie hasn't used that system yet. But it's good to see that you're maintaining certain standards, and I certainly appreciate it. But I'm particularly interested in predictive forecasting with health and safety. Have you got any examples of how that works and the benefits that you've had?
Yes, I think it's about understanding what we call sort of risk or high risk actions and high risk situations, and being able to predict from that situation is something not so great going to happen very shortly. And that's where then you can have systems where then you can alert the appropriate people, situation, the appropriate part of the yard, the operations in place to avoid those circumstances happening. And it's understanding, and a lot of it comes through, firstly, understanding behaviours, and we know that the most difficult thing is to understand human behaviour, but at the same time, there's certain things that we're told not to do, but we still do, unfortunately. And that's through technology. We can actually, as much as we can help with that does make a difference.
Okay, thank you.